everyone, and welcome to the Saskatchewan Wildlife Federation Youth Conservation Leadership Speaker Series. We are going to be talking to a new professional in conservation every week to see what they love so much about their jobs. My name is Shannon Anderson, and I'm the Education Director here at SWF. And today I'm joined by Joe Milligan. Thank you so much for coming in, Joe.
Thanks, Shannon. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you as well. All right, so first of all, I guess just introduce yourself. Tell us what you do.
Okay, my name is Joe Milligan. I live in Regina. I'm married to my wife, Lori, who is the manager of the Outdoor Environmental Education Department at the Regina Public School Board. I have two daughters, Jane, who's in university, and Laura, who's in grade 12. And professionally, I am a trail recreation specialist with the Ministry of Parks, Culture, and Sport, Saskatchewan Parks, meaning I basically build, design, and do stuff on trails.
That's pretty cool. So, yeah, you sound like you have an awesome job. So you're a trail specialist. What kind of things do you do? Like, what are some common activities that you would do in your daily job?
Well, I guess the elevator pitch on it would be I plan, design, maintain, and build trails and support them in building trails within the provincial parks. But this includes like hiking trails, ATV trails, cross-country ski trails, accessible trails for people in wheelchairs or have disabilities, or I guess say movement challenges, canoe routes, and I work on the infrastructure related stuff like that. But most of all, I guess I support trails. I support the staff when it comes to developing trails within the parks so that they can do it on their own.
Wow, that's a lot more diverse than originally I thought. That's cool. That's really neat. So I know that you've worked in outdoor education also for a long time. So what was it that made you interested in pursuing a job outside in conservation?
There's a couple things. I started off with a Bachelor of Education. And so I taught school in Yukon Territory as well as Saskatchewan grades 2 to 6. I wanted to be a kindergarten teacher, but
wow, oh, neat.
So I guess what it was is I did a lot of volunteering. My wife and I worked with the Bethune Wildlife Federation youth group as volunteers. I worked at Saskatchewan Parks and Recreation Association, where unbeknownst to me, it'd have a great influence on my future profession, but I worked on trail projects. Mostly policy related and with volunteers with them. And then from there, I moved to the Saskatchewan Wildlife Federation as the conservation education specialist, your position.
Yeah.
And then I guess when I started with parks, I had the word trails in my resume. So all of a sudden things started going towards it. So I guess having an eclectic resume really was what opened that avenue up. And I guess I was hired to do education and interpretation programming, but as I sort of moved along, more and more questions and need came up to involve trails, and that's how it evolved.
That's pretty cool. I mean, you're a pretty flexible person, so it makes sense. Okay, so I guess my next question would be, you've got your field season in the summertime, and then the wintertime's probably a little bit slower. Is there a big difference in between what you do in the wintertime versus the summertime, or yeah,
well,
is there?
Yeah, I guess it is. I should say I'm only sort of been officially into this position for about a little over a month, even though I've been doing it for 10 years. So I guess in the winter, like what I'm doing now is I'm doing still a lot of follow-up from the 2020 season. So a lot of the construction and capital work that we're doing, working on some trailhead signs from Meadow Lake Provincial Park with numerous park staff. I'm getting projects ready for the 2021 construction season. We're working with our volunteer groups, making sure we're all on the same page. It's just sort of a lot of pre-work, things that we have to sort of get together. Logistics, we have to make sure budgets, and it's also dealing with a lot of different parties, whether it be nonprofits, government, interministry. So that's really what I'm up to, is just making sure that I am putting a cap on everything that we started in 2020 and getting ready for everything in 2021.
Right, making sure all your ducks are in a row for when you can get back on the ground. Yeah,
and this is things like, but it also includes things like right now we're working on policies, procedures, manuals. We're working with trying to line up how we're going to sort of take all of our trails into inventory. So it's really working with a lot of groups and making sure that we have I guess, a process involved to ensure that when our visitors come to the parks, they have an excellent trail experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what sort of person do you think would enjoy a position such as yours? Like, is it somebody who just really likes to be outside all the time? Or is it like, what would you necessarily have to have a background in trails previously? Or yeah, like who would you recommend this to?
Well, I guess obviously you need to love the outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
And kill that phone. You need to love the outdoors. That's one of the biggest things. You need to love the outdoors. You need to enjoy a challenge. You need to be physically prepared, mentally prepared to deal with differences, work with other people. I think the biggest, but the other thing is I spend quite a bit of time out of the office from about May until November. And then I spend time in the office. So it allows me a lot of flexibility. So I also think you need to be a trail user and even an outdoors person, because it's not only, to me, it's not just about using the trail, deciding when to put a trail in. It's also about identifying when not to put a trail in. Trails can be sort of a double-edged sword. They can be very positive when it comes to providing people an opportunity to see very unique places, but it's also, we use trails to take people away from sensitive areas or other places like that. So it's having that background, that knowledge to make sound decisions or recommendations.
Absolutely. So I know, like I said before, you've had a ton of different careers in your lifetime. But if you weren't a trail specialist right now, what other career would you choose? Is there something that you've always wanted to do that you haven't gotten to yet? Or
oh, well, when I was
want to go back to kindergarten teaching, maybe?
Actually, when I was growing up, I wanted to be an archaeologist.
Oh, really?
Yep, I always had an interest in sort of history and knowledge and digging in the dirt. And it's one of those things, even I can still remember in grade like 2 saying we had to do a little project. What is your life going to look like? And mine, I was going to be an archaeologist. And
it's pretty cool.
Just the way life leads. But my oldest daughter is pursuing anthropology and archaeology. So genetically, I guess that's there.
Oh, there you go. Live a little vicariously. That's cool.
Live my life through her.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty neat. That's cool. So you mentioned earlier that you and your wife are involved in a lot of volunteer organizations. So if you were looking to get into a position such as yours or work with parks, are there any organizations that you would recommend to help out with or volunteer with? Or
yeah, there is. I think that volunteering is something that's extremely important. Like professionally, when I look at a resume, one of the things that I do look for is volunteer time. And because to me, that sort of gives me an idea of a person's character, shows what they're willing to give back to a community in sort of an unselfish way. And so, and also it builds character. You get to see a side of life maybe that you wouldn't otherwise see. But obviously, Saskatchewan Wildlife Federation, I highly recommend getting involved with them, because I mean, I enjoyed my time in my career with the Wildlife Federation. I enjoyed working with the volunteers, and I still keep in contact. Plus, I have people recognize me all the time, saying, "Oh, hey, I remember you from camp, or I remember from dinners." And
you definitely still have your picture around on some stuff.
No, I really enjoy that aspect, and I guess working with volunteers is fantastic, because they really are the backbone of so many organizations in this province. Trails Association, if you're involved in sports, volunteering with like coaching, search and rescue. My wife Lori and I helped start the one in Regina, Search and Rescue Regina, Girl Guides, Scouts, things like the Open Door Society, volunteering at like a place like the library to help new Canadians learn to read, things like that. So anything that interest in, get involved in it, and get that not only in your resume, but help it enhance your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I love to volunteer as well. I think it's a major component of my life, that's for sure. So like you said, you're an outdoors person, you like to be outside all the time. Are there any extracurricular activities? I'm assuming hiking is probably one of them that kind of feeds into your job, but are there others that you see the lot overlap with?
I am an avid paddler, so I love canoeing and sea kayaking and tripping with those. I like winter camping, I like hiking, I like backpacking, I like hunting, I like woodworking, I like reading, I like sewing, I like doing sort of odds and ends, things like that. So really, I guess it's fairly eclectic. And I mean, Will and I have both agreed that we have sort of built on a lot of things, that we stay interested in something for a while, then we sort of lose interest in that, move on to something. So it's not like we've had sort of themes in our life, but when it comes to specifics in our life, we sort of like to move around.
Well, and I mean too, like this whole COVID lockdown kind of thing has really given a lot of us more time to explore more hobbies and get outside and do more stuff. So that's nice. That's one good thing that's come out of it, that's for sure. So Joe, is there any advice that you would give to anybody who is maybe in high school right now, thinking about what their future is going to look like, who wants to be an outdoor educator or work with parks or work with trails or?
Sure. I think one thing is, Parks is always looking for young and motivated people, whether it be in maintenance, whether it be in visitor experience. We always need people who would like to get outside. But I think one of the things is we talked about like maybe what skills you might need.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at a career within trail building, parks, or actually anything. And I guess when I was thinking about this prior to this interview, I thought no matter what you do, get people skills. Interact with others, learn to interact with others in a constructive way. Learn to listen to others. Learn to synthesize information from different sources and be able to communicate it. Be a problem solver. See work and life's challenges as opportunities to grow. Accept life, and within life, that you're going to make mistakes, and that everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah.
Learn from it. And I think most of all, be curious about the world around you. Sort of wonder what's around the next corner, or tree, or hill, or lake bend, what's under that rock. Sort of become a jack of all trades. And those are so important. I mean, your education, no matter what you're becoming, those are things that you have to be able to do to be an effective, I guess, a contributor. And in these troubled times, we really need people to take an interest in those around them in a very genuine way, in a positive and a constructive way.
Yeah, absolutely. That's some pretty fantastic advice. I'm going to use some of that advice if you don't mind.
I think you already have.
Well, thanks again for coming and talking to us today, Joe. This was wonderful. To get to know you a little bit better than I already did. For those of you who are watching, stay tuned. Take a look at our Facebook page where we're going to be announcing who we're going to be interviewing next. And if you have any questions, feel free to send them in to us. Thanks.